Kent Hughes has revealed the truth behind why he traded Jeff Petry to the Red Wings for what many believe to be a bit of an underwhelming return. We'll be talking about the main reason he decided to do this, plus a bit of his salary genius and just how he plans to organize the Habs books moving forward. So you'll want to stick around for this edition of Habs Digest. Jesse, let's dive into this, but as we dive into the truth behind the Jeff Petry trade, a quick reminder to hit subscribe if you haven't. I remind you of your video, I'm sorry, but when I say it, you guys subscribe, so thank you very much. Here's some of the truth behind it, Jesse. Now, we know, obviously, that Jeff Petry was traded to the Detroit Red Wings. We already covered this in a video earlier today, but what we didn't necessarily cover in the video at the time was the main incentive for the Habs to do this trade, because a lot of fans, like we said, were 50% retained. That's not that much to get back, as Lindstrom doesn't project to be like even a top 4 defenseman. Take a look at this. Prianta Emrith tweets that the Habs GM Kent Hughes said, he said this in the press conference, when he spoke to Jeff Petry shortly after the 3-way trade involving Pittsburgh and San Jose, the big trade that happened last week, he promised Petry he would try to expedite, another trade to send back to a U.S. team, ideally before the new school year begins for Petry's sons. Now, to me, Jesse, this is just one of the most amazing things, because Jeff Petry has done so much for the Habs organization. Kent Hughes clearly has a good relationship with Petry, clearly wanted to do right by him, as he said he would last year. And I don't know, this kind of surprised me. It was like, oh, this makes a lot more sense. And it just seems like it's really setting a perfect Habs culture example.
Exactly. That's so true. And he's wanted to do this in multiple ways, increasing communication from the general manager to the players, but then also just doing right by them in general. And what's so great, Josh, is, as you mentioned, Kent Hughes said this himself in the press conference, is by doing these type of moves, that this is what allows other players, this is what makes them want to come to the Montreal Canadiens organization, that this actually plays a big factor. And this is a big part of the real reason of why Kent Hughes is making this trade is, again, he's playing chess when other people are playing checkers. He's always playing the long-term sort of game. Like, not only are we getting a bunch of draft picks, we're getting some prospects, we're getting another backup goalie, but we're also kind of sending the message throughout the league that we're going to be there to really take care of players. And I think Kent Hughes has done this in a lot of ways already. I think it helps that he already has such a great relationship with so many players in the NHL from being a former player agent. But moves like this, it just really solidifies it further. And that he even has another reason for doing this as well, so that this isn't the only reason. He wants to do what's right for the the player, but also for the team, finding that healthy balance. And with Kent Hughes, he really feels like when you're getting this draft capital, that it allows you in the future to really be able to save money. He actually said his strategy is that it allows you to save money to actually overpay on free agents in the future. And people might be shocked hearing that, but that's what you need to do to get free agents. You need to overpay, but by having these younger guys, these ELCs, entry-level contracts, stocking up those draft picks, that's what allows you to do this. So I'm wondering, is it Draisaitl 2025? Is he going to try and do something in free agent even next summer? I don't know. It'd be really interesting to see, but I think he also, he wants to be very wise about how he's spending his money, and this also plays into that as well.
Yeah, and I think you made a great point there, saying, this comes from him being an agent, right? Clearly having a good relationship with players. He's perfectly translating that ability to his current role, right? And it's not only him, right? We saw throughout the whole season other players saying, yeah, we see what's going on in Montreal. Players seem to love being there, even in a losing season, having Coach Marty, having a GM that truly cares about you and wants to do right by his players. We already saw it. Cole Caufield and Nick Suzuki. Caufield taking less money than Nick Suzuki, right? We're seeing some bargain contracts already. Players are wanting to stay in Montreal, which is something that didn't necessarily happen a lot in the past. So, in the past, yes, maybe not in the past 10, 15 years. So it's really, really awesome to see. And yeah, you're right. He's doing everything right. Not only right by the player, but right by the organization, right by a rebuild standpoint. And that is awesome to see. And as we dive a bit more into the financial thing, Jesse, he's kind of a salary genius when it comes to it, right? Like, he was asked in this interview as well, what did the salary have to do with this, right? Because Jeff Petry was retaining 50%, is taking out a decent bit of salary. It's about 2.3 this year, or 2 million this year, 2.3 next year. But Kent Hughes said the Canadiens feel like they can enter the season with Carey Price on the roster and then put him on in-season LTIR. It's not guaranteed, but as of right now, that's the plan. That would provide some operational flexibility that off-season LTIR would not. And I'm not going to pretend I know all the all the details of how the salary cap works, but I do know that if you have a player on off-season LTIR, it restricts how much money you can spend. So having Price on in-season LTIR as opposed to just off-season would really, really help him out. But not only this, Jesse, he has also come out and said that the Habs want to be under the salary cap heading into this season, which kind of ties into this. But you got to think more moves are coming, and that's part of the reason he's like, hey, I got Petry, I dumped him off, we're only holding about $2 million, a lot less than what he would normally be. Like, I don't know, it's just like stuff I can't even comprehend. He's just like, oh no, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Exactly, that's it. And he knows the landscape of the division as well, what we're playing in. He knows that we have some very solid competition. So is there a competition window really in the next 1 to 2 years to kind of get to the top of the division? Not really, right? We're slowly kind of inching there, but he knows it's not kind of right away. So that's why it's okay to keep a little bit of money on the books for this time. We know that the salary cap is going to be going up. He's obviously doing great moves already of kind of getting out of some cap where we can, so I think that's just going to continue. But again, he's just having this long-term play, and it's so nice to be realistic. It's like, It's important to do this rebuild, not just try to rush it. We are playing in a very strong division. We got a lot of great teams. We're going to need to be systematic. Even the teams that are trying to move up are doing so right now in in Buffalo, and then also in Ottawa, right? So we have a lot of competition right now, and we're going to need to be very systematic and strategic about our window. When do we want to compete? But make no mistake, when it's the time for the Montreal Canadiens to compete, we're going to be ready, and we're going to be doing it the right way.
Yeah, and he really has shown that he wants to do everything the right way, as we just mentioned, not only by way of the organization and the salary cap, but by way of the players. But this also begs the question, Jesse. You can make all these moves, right? You can make all these amazing salary cap moves. You can do right by the players. But at the end of the day, you still have to ice a product. And just to end off this video, I wanted to get a bit of your opinion on who do you think, now that this trade is done, we've kind of sat on it, we've stewed on it a little bit. We know that Gustav Lindstrom is going to be fighting for a roster spot. I want your prediction. What's the Habs' right D side going to look like going into this year? We'll ignore the left because I think it's going to be Matheson, Guhle, and Harris. I think that's pretty much set in stone. But on the right side, just before this video is over, what do you think we're going to see night one of the season?
Well, I think for right now, Kovacevic is an analytics darling, a little bit underrated. So I think we're going to probably see him on the third pairing. I'd love to see Barron on that second, But it all kind of depends on who we're pairing with, right? Because obviously Matheson and Savard isn't the best pairing. So I'd maybe like to see even a combination of Matheson Barron to start it off on that first pairing,
offensive,
which might bring Savard right onto that second pairing as well. I mean, the analytics don't lie on that. So I'd definitely be interested at least to try it out.
So you think, I guess, Lindstrom kind of projects as a 7th or 8th team going into the season. And honestly, I think that's what I see as well. I think Kovacevic, when you look at the analytics for Lindstrom, he's all right, but the thing with Gustav Lindstrom is, if you guys don't know, he's basically a pure defensive defenseman. He's 6'2", 183, so he's not the heaviest, and he's also not the fastest skating. So he fills that kind of big boy role, kind of similar to what Xhekaj does in a bit, but the thing with Xhekaj is he has a bit of offensive upside, while, according to a lot of Red Wings fans, we don't really see any offensive upside with Lindstrom. Now, I'd love to be proven wrong, obviously. We got him in a trade. I want nothing but success. But at the moment, I think I'd have to stick with your opinion, Jesse. Now, I think the only difference is I might actually say I might cheat a little bit. And I might say the bottom pairing is Harris-Xhekaj. Just because Xhekaj brings that physicality, and you have Harris, who's had a bit of experience on the right side. And then you start with I think you start with Barron in the AHL, just because he's still waiver exempt. He can come up and down with no restrictions, and it gives you a bit of flexibility. But I guess all we can do is wait and see. There's a lot of questions still to be answered about this whole situation, but we'll be updating you as soon as we know more. That'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Help us hit 10,000 subscribers. We'd really appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.